Kamp controversy. It is said that Stephen Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, didn't want a SpongeBob Baby spin-off, but after some time of the sad demise of Mr. Hillenburg, a show called Kamp Koral emerged. And Kamp Koral is literally what it is, a kid's version of SpongeBob. So how do you see that as? Well, I'll tell you how some fans see it as. Stephen didn't want SpongeBob to be made into a baby's format. Kamp Koral is SpongeBob in the baby's format, and it got released after Stephen's passing. Therefore, Nick was holding on to it until, they could safely release it. But others think that since there was about 2 years of gap between both the events, it probably was a coincidence and this controversy doesn't need to exist. So what do you think? Controversy or coincidence, or rather misunderstanding? Because you see, it is said that Stephen Hillenburg didn't want a baby spin-off, but did he even ever say that? Well, the closest answer to that, I think, is this interview where you can see him saying that he don't see it happening, but not he doesn't want to see, or something similar to that. So it can just mean that at the time of the interview, he didn't see the possibility of such a show happening. And so the situation could very well be much simpler than how it's been seen as, but we don't know everything. Squidward's side. A very famous creepypasta considered one of the best creepypastas ever, where as the name says, Squidward kills himself. You'd probably know about this one. In case you don't, then I guess you won't like any spoilers from me before reading it. It's a neat representation of what's allegedly an actual episode which never was released for being too messed up. But take it with a stack of salt. I'm ready! SpongeBob video games. Just one of the fun entries to address the various video games made on SpongeBob, like Lights Camera Pants, Battle for Bikini Bottom, The Yellow Avenger, etc.
Hi, how are you?
SpongeBob's sexuality. Since the early 2000s, this has been debated a number of times. You would especially remember this particular tweet by Nick that caused much chaos around what's probably a misunderstanding that SpongeBob is gay. We can safely say misunderstanding because Stephen Hillenburg himself had made it clear in an early 2000s interview that not only the characters were somewhat asexual, but also how their sexual preferences were never thought about while making the show, as that was not related to the goal of the production. The goal was to entertain. So yeah, not gay, asexual, somewhat. 7 Deadly Sins. You know about this already. It's quite famous with tons of articles and videos on the internet, including this quick shot of mine as well. So perhaps I'll take the liberty to play it for you here. SpongeBob's pet snail Gary. Since he's mostly seen eating or looking for things to eat, as per the theory, Gary represents gluttony. SpongeBob and Patrick's friend Sandy. Since Sandy is seen bragging a lot about her home, as per the theory, she's assigned pride. Mr. Krabs' arch nemesis Plankton. For being jealous of Mr. Krabs' success, the theory says that he has a lot of envy. SpongeBob's boss, Mr. Krabs. Because he's always up to make a saver bucket too, the theory gives him the tag of greed. SpongeBob's neighbor Squidward. For always being angry on SpongeBob, the theory has Rob for him. SpongeBob's best friend Patrick. Although really cute, theory says he's a sloth for always laying around. And last but obviously not the least, the start of the show, the start of the shot, SpongeBob. I'm a fan myself, but sorry to say, for always being overexcited and enthusiastic, somehow, as per the theory, he symbolizes lust. But if you as well don't like that last one, don't worry, we might have a bit of it. This theory, however, has apparently been debunked by Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob. Spinoffs. So there are 2 spin-offs to the show so far, the Patrick Star Show and Kamp Koral, the one we talked about at the beginning. It's just a fun fact entry, that's it for this one. We'll be talking more about them later.
Epilogue.
Milking. Well, to many fans it seems that Nick is now milking SpongeBob. Why else would they put out 2 spin-offs? Cause most would not like that kind of stuff if they love the original. Similar to Hanna-Barbera reusing the Scooby formula, though they did that for a very different reason. But in this case, fans really suspect that they're milking the idea as much as they can. But don't worry, at the end of the day, this is what a group of people thinks. So of course it's up to you what you want to watch this Saturday. Season 6 to 8. Loosely connected with the previous entry is this one for season 6, 7 and 8. These seasons are basically least received by the fans. Fans say that that's where the show started on a downslope, they should have ended it around season 4, and that they're now just squeezing the sponge as much as they can.
One winner later.
Gross out. Well, while we're talking about season 6, 7 and 8 of SpongeBob, the ones that were not well received are somehow also the ones that have gross out scenes. A lot of gross out scenes. So do the SpongeBob fans not like to be grossed out? Was that the reason for the decline? Nobody knows.
I love you.
THQ. Yes sir, THQ, that video game company that no longer is active, is the main publisher for most of the SpongeBob games. Just a fun fact. Bikini Atoll. This theory suggests that this whole bikini bottom thing might have been taken from Bikini Atoll, which is a coral reef in the Marshall Islands. So basically this is a huge area consisting of about 23 islands, and 23 is also the number of nuclear tests that were done here by the US between 1946 to 1958. The inhabitants were relocated and the area remains inhabitable to this day. So the theory comes in that maybe the world of Bikini Bottom is inhabited by the creatures who were mutated by the nuclear testing. Yes and no. Yes, Bikini Bottom is in fact named after Bikini Atoll, and no, for the nuclear theory, they didn't go that far. Memes. Needless to say, SpongeBob is famous for memes. Memes are famous for SpongeBob. I mean, do I even have to say that? Does it even have to be here in the entry? We have come for your nectar. You know it, your friends know it, your family knows it, your girlfriend.
One eternity later.
Sisters, far-flung uncles, brothers, kid knows it. That SpongeBob equals memes. Yeah.
3,000 years later.
Spongehenge. Spongehenge is an episode in the 5th season which is infamous not because of some overboard way to make humor, much the opposite. This episode is in fact not even considered funny, but disturbing in many ways. If you haven't watched it and you don't want any spoilers, then you may skip to the next entry now. In this episode, SpongeBob builds a Spongehenge, which is a reference to Stonehenge, so that it can get himself rid of the jellyfishes that are after him for the sound that SpongeBob's holes would make due to the strong winds that for some reason blow throughout the episode. But all SpongeBob cares about is to have the jellyfish's food, who literally took his job, his best friend, and in a way his life away from him, all because of this sound that they are attracted to. SpongeBob is eventually able to do just that and finally leave the cave where he'd been making the Spongehenge and be back to Bikini Bottom, just to find that it is gone. And the way humans are still examining Stonehenge, in the end aliens are shown to be examining Spongehenge after 3,000 years. So you see a lot of dark and unsettling things in there. There are literally articles and dedicated videos made on this episode discussing not just the reason of the wind, but the reason of this episode too. And if this is the ending that the show had planned to leave us with, but then later for some reason they went on. Who knows? But I do wonder which one is more mysterious now. Bikini Bottom 100% ending. While we're talking about ends, in the game Battle for Bikini Bottom, there's a special secret ending for the player that collects every golden spatula, which would be 100 golden spatulas hidden around Bikini Bottom. Defeating the final boss after collecting them all would lead to that secret ending for Bikini Bottom. If you didn't know about it and you want to see the ending after beating the game yourself, then skip to the next entry now.
Say that again.
That again.
References in other shows. You see, SpongeBob is the most successful Nicktoon, and one of the longest running animated series, and one of the most popular cartoons ever, and whatnot. SpongeBob made cleaning fun. Wherever you see, there are plushes, brushes, wear toys, merchandise, and of course it's appeared an awful lot of times in other Nick cartoon shows, and other non-Nick cartoon shows, and other non-Nick non-cartoon shows. Okay, you get the point. It's everywhere. Look, the list is huge and I can literally make a 2-hour video talking about every time SpongeBob was referenced in other shows, and I'm sure there would still be missed entries. So allow me to handpick a couple for you for now. Enjoy.
You want to watch SpongeBob?
SpongeBob. Even SpongeBob did it.
Buon compleanno, Squidwardo.
Para soltero y
And that wraps up the first tier of this cool iceberg, no pun intended. Sleep well, I'll see you guys around with the darker entries as soon as they get rendered.